In this presentation, I'm going to be discussing conversion therapy and the role of ex-gay conversion therapy in perpetuating inequality, analyzing sociological and institutional impacts for social inequality, SOS 3306. Conversion therapy, often referred to as ex-gay therapy, encompasses a range of practices aimed at changing an individual's sexual orientation from homosexual or bisexual to heterosexual. This controversial and widely discredited practice has been a significant point of contention within American society, particularly in context of evangelical Christianity. The anti-LGBTQ movement, predominantly led by white evangelical groups, has historically framed conversion therapy as a necessary moral endeavor, masking its harmful impacts on LGBTQ individuals. This presentation will explore the sociological and institutional dynamics surrounding conversion therapy, and how it perpetuates inequality through the medicalization of deviance, the rhetoric of love and victimhood, and the structural violence inflicted upon sexual minorities. By analyzing the historical context of conversion therapy and the narratives constructed by its proponents, we can better understand its roles in reinforcing societal inequalities. Historical background of conversion therapy. The origins of conversion therapy can be traced back to the late 1970s, during a period marked by significant cultural shifts in the United States. The Dade County Commission passed an ordinance prohibiting discrimination based on sexual orientation in 1977, a move that prompted a backlash led by evangelical singer Anita Bryant. Through her organization, Save Our Children, Bryant framed the protection of LGBTQ rights as an assault on family values and children, stating that homosexuals cannot reproduce, so they must recruit. This rhetoric reframed the fight for civil rights into a moral panic, justifying discriminatory practices against LGBTQ individuals as necessary for protecting societal morals. The rise of religious right and organization moved movement that sought to curtail the civil rights of sexual minorities significantly shaped the political landscape of the United States. This movement successfully mobilized evangelical Christians to oppose LGBTQ rights, leading to a cultural and legal environment conducive to anti-LGBTQ violence. Over the decades, this opposition has evolved, but remains deeply rooted in a narrative that frames LGBTQ individuals as threats to traditional values and societal stability. The medicalization of deviance is a key sociological framework that helps explain the rise and persistence of conversion therapy. Historically, homosexuality was classified as a mental illness, a perspective that was reinforced by various medical and psychological institutions. This classification provided a veneer of legitimacy to conversion therapy practices, as they were often presented as therapeutic interventions aimed at curing practices in individuals of their homosexual orientation, while major health organizations, such as the American Psychological Association, have since condemned conversion therapy as harmful and ineffective. The legacy of its medicalization continues to influence societal perceptions of LGBTQ identities. The medicalization of deviance not only pathologizes non-heteronormative sexual orientations, but also serves to reinforce existing power dynamics within society. By framing LGBTQ identities as pathological, proponents of conversion therapy position themselves as moral authorities acting in best interest of individuals who are perceived to be deviant. This dynamic obscures the reality that sexual orientation is a natural and valid aspect of human diversity, further entrenching societal inequalities. The role of institutions. Religious institutions. Evangelical organizations like Focus on the Family promote conversion therapy by framing it as a moral and spiritual obligation to uphold traditional family values. They utilize rhetoric that depicts homosexuality as a sin or a behavioral disorder that can and should be changed through faith-based interventions. Through various media platforms, they, dis- they disseminate success stories and testimonials from individuals who claim to have undergone conversion therapy, reinforcing the belief that such practices are effective. Medical institutions. During the mid-20th century, various conversion therapies were promoted by medical professionals, including aversion therapy, electroconvulsive therapy, and behavioral modification techniques. These practices were often framed as necessary to restore heterosexual orientation. Cultural impact. These institutions create a framework that normalizes the discrimination against LGBTQ individuals. Rhetoric of conversion therapy proponents. Rhetoric of love and victimhood. One of the most pervasive narratives employed by proponents of conversion therapy is the rhetoric of love, which seeks to justify discrimination under the guise of moral protection. Many evangelical Christians assert that their opposition to LGBTQ rights is rooted in love and a desire to uphold traditional family values. This discourse often positions them as a victim of a radical LGBTQ agenda, framing their fight against LGBTQ rights as a defense of their own religious and moral beliefs. This construction of victimhood serves a dual purpose. First, it creates a sense of solidarity among conservative Christians, binding them together in a common cause against perceived threats to their values. Second, it shifts the focus away from the harm caused by discriminatory practices, allowing adherents to deny any culpability for the structural violence inflicted upon LGBTQ individuals. This denial of hate, as seen in interviews with evangelical individuals, serves as the claim to innocence, further complicating the discourse surrounding conversion therapy. Survivor experiences. Personal stories. Mary Jean is a courageous survivor of conversion therapy who has shared her transformative journey and struggles with identity. Designated male at birth, Mary Jean always felt a deep sense of being female, but societal and familial pressures led her to suppress her true self for many years. In an attempt to conform to the expectations of her evangelical community, she underwent conversion therapy, which included various forms of reparative practices promoted by her church. This experience not only exacerbated her internal conflict, but also led to significant emotional turmoil, including a period of severe depression. Ultimately, after a life-altering realization during a near-death experience, Mary Jean embraced her identity and transitioned to living as a woman. Despite facing ostracism and discrimination, including the loss of her marriage and employment, Mary Jean's journey became one of empowerment and advocacy, inspiring others to attempt their true selves and to accept them true selves and challenge the harmful narratives surrounding conversion therapy. Structural violence against LGBTQ individuals. The impact of conversion therapy extends beyond individual experiences to encompass broader societal implications, particularly in terms of structural violence. Structural violence refers to the systemic inequalities and injustices that marginalize certain groups, creating environments where discrimination and violence are normalized. The anti-LGBTQ rights environments and movement has contributed to a cultural context in which LGBTQ individuals are subject to various forms of violence, including legal, social, and physical harm. For instance, the lack of legal protections for LGBTQ individuals has made them vulnerable to discrimination in employment, housing, healthcare, and other critical areas, as evidenced by the experiences of individuals like Mary Jean, who faced ostracism, discrimination, and violence as a result of her identity. The repercussions of conversion therapy and anti-LGBTQ policies can be devastating. The environment fostered by these movements contributes to mental health challenges, including increased rates of depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation among LGBTQ individuals. And as seen in the graph, you'll see across all racial and ethnic categories, lesbian, gay, and bisexual people are more likely than straight people to experience violence. Anti-LGBTQ movements in political context, religious right mobilization, organizational power. Groups like Focus on the Family and the Moral Majority have mobilized evangelical voters, encouraging political engagement to promote conservative social agendas. They frame LGBTQ rights as a threat to traditional family values and religious freedom, garnering support from constituents who share these beliefs. Extensive outreach and grassroots mobilization have been pivotal in influencing local, state, and national elections. Political rhetoric. Anti-LGBTQ sentiments are often used to create a dichotomy between family values and perceived moral decay, rallying conservative voters around a common cause. Rhetoric often employs fear-based messaging, suggesting that LGBTQ rights will lead to negative consequences for society, thus emerging conservative bases. This rhetoric plays a significant role in the so-called cultural wars, where LGBTQ issues are positioned as central battlegrounds for conservative identity. Impact on legislation. Many states enacted laws and constitutional amendments banning same-sex marriage prior to the 2015 Supreme Court ruling, and Obergefell versus Hodges, reflecting widespread legislative efforts to limit LGBTQ rights. Legislative efforts often focus on undermining protections for LGBTQ individuals in employment, housing, and public accommodations. In recent years, numerous states have passed laws targeting transgender individuals, particularly concerning access to health care and participation in sports, further illustrating ongoing legislative challenges. Intersectionality in evangelical politics. Understanding the role of conversion therapy in perpetuating inequality requires an examination of intersectionality, particularly concerning race and gender within evangelical politics. The anti-LGBTQ movement has historically been dominated by white evangelical Christians, and while anti-LGBTQ sentiments may exist across various racial communities, the predominant leadership and rhetoric have largely remained white and male. This homogeneity contributes to the marginalization of voices and experiences from diverse racial and gender backgrounds within the broader LGBTQ movement. Moreover, the patriarchal structures inherent in evangelicalism often exacerbate the discrimination faced by both women and LGBTQ individuals. The emphasis on traditional gender roles and the subjection of women within evangelical communities reinforce a culture of misogyny and discrimination. As seen in the emergence of movements like #Church2, there is a growing recognition of the need to address the intersecting oppressions faced by women and LGBTQ individuals within evangelical spaces. Current status of conversion therapy. Despite the overwhelming evidence against the efficacy of conversion therapy, the practice persists in various forms across the United States. Legal battles over the ban on conversion therapy continue as conservative religious groups lobby for the right to practice these harmful methods under the guise of religious freedom. Recent legislative efforts to ban conversion therapy for minors have faced significant pushback from the evangelical organizations that frame such bans as an infringement on their religious liberties. Public opinion regarding conversion therapy has begun to shift with increasing awareness of its harmful effects. Advocacy movements aimed at raising awareness and supporting survivors of conversion therapy have gained traction, highlighting the need for comprehensive protections for LGBTQ individuals. Organizations such as the Human Rights Campaign and the Trevor Project are at the forefront of these efforts, working to promote acceptance and protect the rights of LGBTQ individuals. Broader implications of conversion therapy. The implications of conversion therapy extend beyond the individual, influencing societal attitudes towards LGBTQ individuals and contributing to a culture of discrimination. The rhetoric employed by proponents of conversion therapy reinforces harmful stereotypes and stigmas, perpetuating a cycle of violence and exclusion. As such, it is essential to challenge these narratives and advocate for a more inclusive understanding of sexuality and identity. Moreover, the fight against conversion therapy is emblematic of broader struggles for social justice and equality. The intersectionality of race, gender, and sexuality within these movements underscores the need for a holistic approach to advocacy that addresses the diverse experiences of marginalized communities. By dismantling the structures of power that perpetuate discrimination, we can work toward a more equitable society for all individuals, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. I would also like to point to the graph of hate crimes in 2023 by bias motivation. If you notice, race and religion continue to be a driving force behind hate crimes in America. Sexual orientation bias and religious bias combined almost equal race. Calls to action. Advocacy for legal protections. Advocate for state and federal laws that ban conversion therapy, especially for minors, to protect vulnerable individuals from harmful practices. Engagement is key. Encourage community members to contact their representatives, participate in rallies, and join organizations that work towards LGBTQ rights. Highlighting harm. Share statistics and personal stories that illustrate the negative mental health impacts of conversion therapy to bolster support for legal protections. Community support. Create and promote safe spaces for LGBTQ individuals to share their experiences and heal from trauma associated with conversion therapy and discrimination. provide access to mental health resources, counseling, and support groups specifically tailored for LGBTQ individuals, and foster allyship within communities to amplify LGBTQ voices and ensure they feel supported in their advocacy efforts. These are all ways that you could absolutely support the community as a whole. And also education awareness. Advocate for inclusive education in schools that covers LGBTQ issues, rights, and the harms of conversion therapy to foster understanding from a young age. Organize workshops and training sessions for healthcare providers, educators, and community leaders to raise awareness about the negative effects of conversion therapy and promote affirmative practices. Initiate public awareness campaigns that educate the broader community about LGBTQ rights and the importance of acceptance, aiming to reduce stigma and discrimination. Conclusion. The role of ex-gay conversion therapy in perpetuating inequality is a complex and multifaceted issue, and it requires careful examination of the sociological, institutional, and individual dynamics at play. Through the medicalization of deviance, the rhetoric of love and victimhood, and the structural violence inflicted upon LGBTQ individuals, conversion therapy serves as a powerful tool for reinforcing societal inequalities. As we continue to grapple with the implications of conversion therapy and the broader anti-LGBTQ movement, it is crucial to advocate for the rights and dignity of all individuals, challenging discriminatory practices, and promoting inclusivity. Only through collective action and awareness can we hope to dismantle the systems of oppression that continue to impact LGBTQ individuals and work towards a more just and equitable society.